They shut the door on my 8-year-old. I signed one paper. I came home to an empty house that shouldn't have been empty. My daughter was supposed to be at her grandparents' holiday party, the one she'd been excited about for a month. Instead, she was sitting alone in our dark kitchen, still wearing the same clothes from that morning. That's when I knew something had gone terribly wrong. My name is Claire. I work as an ER nurse, long shifts that drain everything out of me. That December night, I dragged myself through the door around 9 p.m., expecting silence because my 8-year-old Maya was supposed to be sleeping over at my parents' place. They throw this big winter gathering every year, relatives everywhere, games, food, the works. Maya had been counting down the days. But when I stepped inside, the house felt wrong. Too cold. Too quiet. Her little shoes sat by the door, perfectly aligned. Her jacket hung on the hook where she always leaves it. And beside them, a canvas bag full of small wrapped presents. Each one she'd made by hand, tags still attached, untouched. Maya was at the kitchen table in the dim light, hunched over like she was trying to disappear. Not crying, not making noise. Just small. Maya, I said softly. She looked up. Hi, Mom. You're supposed to be at Grandma and Grandpa's? Ooh, I know. I kept my voice steady. Why are you here? She hesitated. Then, in that flat voice kids use when they've rehearsed something painful, they said there wasn't space for me. Something went cold inside my chest. I sat beside her and pulled her close, holding her tight while rage started building behind my ribs. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. If you've ever been shut out by the people who were supposed to love you most, drop it in the comments. Tell me I'm not alone. And hit subscribe, because this story gets darker before it gets better. I held her for a long time, feeling the small rise and fall of her breathing. She didn't pull away, just stayed pressed against me like she was afraid to let go. Finally, I pulled back and brushed the hair from her face. Sweetheart, I said gently. Can you walk me through what happened? Maya nodded, but the words came slow. She picked at her sleeve, eyes fixed on the table. At 8, she still struggled to tell stories in order. So I asked small questions, piece by piece. You got there okay? Yeah. I rang the doorbell. Grandma answered. Her voice was tiny. She looked surprised. Like maybe she forgot I was coming. I kept my face neutral. Then what? She said the house was really full. Lots of people inside. She told me to wait on the porch because the adults were talking. My stomach twisted. How long did you wait? Not too long. Then Ethan came over. She paused, fingers tightening on her sleeve. He saw my bag and kicked it. Not super hard, but enough. He laughed and said my outfit looked cheap, like it didn't match what everyone else inside was wearing. Ethan, my sister Lauren's son, a few years older than Maya, always quick with a smirk. I pictured him standing there in the doorway, warm light spilling out behind him, and no one correcting him. Did anyone say anything to him? I asked quietly. Maya shook her head. Grandpa was right there, but he just told everyone not to make a fuss. Then Grandma said again there weren't enough chairs. That it would be better if I came another time. Better if she came another time. Like my daughter was an appointment they could reschedule. What about the presents? I pressed, keeping my tone even. She said it wasn't convenient to take them. Told me to bring them home. Amaya's lower lip trembled for the first time. I tried to give Grandma the one I made for her, but she just looked at it and said, maybe later. I swallowed hard, imagining her standing there in the cold, holding out something she'd poured her heart into, only to have it pushed away. And your phone died. She nodded. I asked if I could use theirs to call you. Grandma said no, that it would just complicate things, that you were busy anyway. Busy. Right. Then Grandpa said I should walk home, that it wasn't far and the neighborhood was safe. Safe for an adult, maybe. Not for an 8-year-old carrying a bag in the dark with the wind whipping off the hills. How was the walk? I asked barely above a whisper. Cold, she said simply. I kept thinking someone would realize I was gone and come get me, but no one did. I didn't know the way perfectly because we always drive, so I had to stop a couple times to figure it out. My hands hurt from holding the bag. Each word landed like a stone in my chest. I could see it so clearly. Her small figure hurrying along empty sidewalks, streetlights flickering. Every house warm and glowing except the one she'd just left. When she finished, the kitchen felt quieter than before. I pulled her close again, resting my chin on her head. You did nothing wrong. I told her firmly. You were kind. You showed up with gifts. You were polite. If anyone should feel bad, it's the people who sent a child out into the cold. She made a tiny sound, half relief, half doubt, like she wanted to believe me but wasn't sure yet. I stood still holding her hand. Come on. Let's warm you up. I made hot chocolate the way she likes it. Extra marshmallows, steam curling up. We curled up on the couch under the same blanket, her head against my side. She sipped slowly at first, then faster as the warmth sank in. For a while, we didn't talk. I just stroked her hair and let her be. The anger was there, burning steady and low. But I kept it locked down. She didn't need to see it tonight. She needed to feel safe. Gradually, her eyelids grew heavy. The mug slipped to the coffee table. She leaned fully into me, breathing slowing. I watched the faint tear tracks on her cheeks dry, her face smoothing out in sleep. She looked so young, so fragile, and something inside me hardened into steel. Tutu, I sat there long after Maya dozed off, staring into the dark, planning what came next. What happened tonight wasn't sudden. It was the final breaking point of patterns I'd seen for years. Growing up, my parents always had a favorite. Lauren, my younger sister, was the golden child. Outgoing, always ready with a laugh. They'd brag about her to relatives, hang her awards on the fridge like trophies. Me, I was quieter. Took longer to open up. When I went through my divorce young, after Maya's father walked out without looking back, they treated it like a personal failure. They helped once with a small check that barely covered a month's bills, then told everyone how generous they'd been. As if that single gesture erased any further obligation. Lauren played her role perfectly. She'd send the occasional text during my hardest months. Thinking of you, hope things get better. But when I actually needed someone to watch Maya or help with groceries, she was always too busy. It wasn't hostility. It was just absence when it mattered most. Then there was Grandpa Harold, my mother's father. The one person who never made me feel like a disappointment. After the divorce, when I was scrambling to keep things together as a single mom working shifts, he stepped in quietly. Every month, he covered part of the mortgage on my parents' house, the big place they loved showing off, because he wanted the family to have space together during the holidays. He'd slip me extra for Maya's needs too, never making a fuss. But we weren't perfect. We'd had our share of blow-ups over the years. He hated how fiercely independent I became, pushing away help because I didn't want to owe anyone. There was one fight I still remember clearly. He accused me of shutting people out, of punishing myself more than necessary. You don't have to do everything alone, he'd said, voice raised. I'd fired back that relying on family hadn't exactly worked out for me. We didn't speak for weeks. But he never stopped the support. Eventually, we patched it up with his usual gruff apology and my quiet acceptance. He was older now. His legs giving him trouble, energy not what it used to be. He lived alone in a modest house nearby, managing with a cane on bad days, but still sharp as ever. Maya adored him. He'd let her help in the kitchen, tell her old stories, always had time for her drawings. He'd light up around her in a way that made the rest of the family's indifference stand out even more. What hurt most was remembering why he helped with the house. So there's room for all of you, he'd say, especially around winter gatherings. Family should have a place to come together when it's cold outside. He believed that deeply. Poured his retirement savings into making it possible. Yet lately, visits to him had dwindled. My parents would call occasionally, then act like that counted as real effort. Lauren barely mentioned him unless it involved some future benefit. Sitting there in the dim living room, I traced those threads back further. The favoritism wasn't new. It had shaped how they saw obligations, who deserved what. They'd built their comfortable life partly on Grandpa Harold's generosity, treating it like something earned rather than given freely. And now that same mindset had extended to Maya, my bright, eager daughter, reduced to an inconvenience because she didn't fit neatly into their evening. The unfairness settled heavy in my chest. He'd given so much to keep the family connected, only to watch them pull away when he needed them more. And tonight, they'd used the space he helped provide to exclude the one person who still looked forward to being part of it all. I glanced down at Maya, peaceful in sleep, and felt a surge of protectiveness. This wasn't just about one bad night. It was about years of imbalance finally tipping too far. That surge pushed me to my feet. I carried Maya gently to her bed, tucking the blanket around her, then grabbed my phone. It was late, later than I usually called anyone. But Grandpa Harold had always been a night owl, and I needed him to hear this. I dialed the video call, settling back on the couch as the ringtone filled the quiet. He answered quickly, his face appearing on screen with the familiar glow of his living room lamp behind him. His eyes crinkled in that warm way they always did when he saw me. "Claire," he said, voice gravelly but alert. "Everything all right?" I hesitated, then explained softly that Maya had fallen asleep but that I needed to talk. He nodded, waiting patiently as I recounted the evening, the unexpected turn at my parents' door, the way she'd come home alone. Before I finished, Maya stirred from the bedroom, drawn by the sound of his voice. She patted out in her socks, rubbing her eyes, and climbed onto the couch beside me. I angled the phone so he could see her fully. "Hi, Grandpa," she mumbled, leaning close. His expression softened immediately. "Hey, kiddo, rough night?" She nodded, then said quietly, just one short sentence that hit harder than any long explanation. "I think I did something wrong. That's why they sent me away." The change in him was instant. His face, usually quick with a smile for her, darkened, brows drawing together, jaw tightening in a way I hadn't seen often. He didn't interrupt or rush to comfort. He just let the words hang there, absorbing them. I filled in the details he asked for, keeping my voice low and steady. How full the house was. The suggestion she walk back on her own. He listened without comment at first, eyes fixed on the screen, the lines around them deepening. Finally, he spoke, his tone measured but edged with something firm. "I've helped them all these years because I thought that's what family does. Keeps a place for everyone, especially the kids." He paused, glancing at Maya again, then back to me. "I can't accept my great-granddaughter being treated like she doesn't belong there." Maya shifted closer but stayed silent, watching him with wide eyes. He didn't push her to say more. Instead, he addressed me directly. "Take care of her tonight," he said. "Make sure she knows none of this is on her." "I will. I promised." He nodded slowly, the weight of the conversation showing in the way he rubbed his chin. "I need to think this through. We'll talk soon." The call ended with his voice a little lower than usual, almost gruff. "Sleep well, both of you. Lock up tight." The screen went dark, leaving the room quieter than before. I set the phone down and pulled Maya against me again, her head resting on my shoulder. She didn't ask questions. She just sighed and closed her eyes, trusting that things would feel better in the morning. I sat there holding her, replaying his words in my mind. There was no dramatic promise, no immediate threat. Just that quiet resolve I knew so well from him. It was enough to ease some of the tightness in my chest. Enough to let me breathe a little deeper. A morning light filtered through the curtains, but my phone stayed silent. I'd tried reaching Grandpa Harold a few times already. Each unanswered ring tightened the knot in my stomach a little more. He wasn't one to ignore calls, especially not after last night's conversation. Worry crept in steadily, pushing me to grab my keys sooner than I'd planned. Maya was finishing breakfast when I told her we were heading out to check on him. She didn't ask many questions, just slipped on her shoes and buckled in beside me. The drive felt longer than usual, my grip tight on the wheel as scenarios played out in my head. His modest house looked quiet when we pulled up, no lights on that I could see, no movement at the windows. I knocked first, then used my spare key when there was no answer. The rooms were tidy, his cane in its usual spot, but empty. A neighbor trimming hedges across the street caught my eye as I stepped back outside. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice casual despite the rising unease. "Have you seen my grandfather today?" She set down her shears, frowning slightly. "Early this morning. Yeah, your parents came by in their car and picked him up." Didn't look like he was thrilled about it, kept glancing back at the house. That was all I needed. I thanked her quickly, helped Maya into the car, and headed straight for my parents' place. The route was familiar. The same streets Maya had walked alone in the cold. But I pushed the thought aside to focus on what lay ahead. Their driveway was empty except for their car when I arrived. I parked and took Maya's hand as we walked up, her small fingers squeezing mine. I knocked hard. 3 sharp raps that echoed. My mother opened the door just a crack at first, her expression shifting to guarded the moment she saw us. "Mum," I said firmly. "Where's Grandpa Harold?" She hesitated, then opened the door wider but stayed blocking the entry. "He's resting. It's not a good time. I need to see him now." My father appeared behind her, arms crossed. "Claire, he's fine. We brought him here to keep an eye on him after he seemed upset last night." Upset last night. As if they had any idea what the call had really been about. "He doesn't live here," I replied, my voice staying level for Maya's sake. "You can't just take him without asking." My mother's lips pressed thin. "He's family. We're looking out for him. He doesn't need visitors stirring things up right now." Maya shifted closer to me, her grip tightening. I felt her trembling slightly and squeezed back reassuringly. "I'm not leaving until I hear from him that he wants to be here," I insisted, stepping forward. My father shook his head. "Not happening. Go home." The refusal hit harder each time. I tried once more, raising my voice just enough. "Let me talk to him." 5 minutes. "No." My mother cut in sharply. "He's sleeping, and you're making a scene." Maya looked up at me then, eyes wide with the same worry I felt churning inside. The standoff stretched, tension thick in the air between us. They weren't budging, and every second they blocked that door fed the fear that something wasn't right. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the screen. My parents exchanged glances, realizing what I was doing. "You're seriously calling the police?" My mother asked, incredulous. "Yes," I said calmly. "I'm requesting a welfare check on my grandfather, an elderly man who may have been taken from his home without consent." I dialed 911, speaking clearly to the dispatcher. "Advanced age. Mobility issues. Last seen being picked up early this morning by family members who are now refusing access. Possible concern he's not there voluntarily." I gave the address and stayed on the line until they confirmed officers were en route. My parents stood there, faces tightening with frustration and something close to panic. Maya held my hand tighter, staying quiet but close. The wait felt endless, the cold morning air biting as we stood on the porch. They wouldn't let us cross. The patrol car pulled up within minutes. 2 officers stepped out and approached the porch with calm professionalism. My parents shifted uncomfortably, my mother smoothing her sweater as if this were just a minor inconvenience. The lead officer asked straightforward questions. "Who lived here?" "Relation to Grandpa Harold." "Reason for the call?" My father tried to take control. "There's no emergency. He's family resting inside." "This is all a misunderstanding." The officer nodded politely but didn't back down. "We still need to speak with him directly to confirm he's okay and hear of his own choice." My mother glanced at me with a mix of anger and embarrassment, then reluctantly stepped aside. The officers entered, and we followed at a distance, Maya staying close by my side, her hand still in mine. The house smelled faintly of coffee and the lingering warmth from last night's gathering. But the atmosphere felt heavy now. Grandpa Harold was seated in the back living room, his cane within reach, a blanket draped over his lap. He looked tired, lines deeper around his eyes, but his gaze was clear and focused when he saw us. One officer crouched slightly to his level, speaking respectfully. "Sir, are you all right? Do you need any medical assistance?" He shook his head. "I'm fine physically." "And are you here because you want to be?" A pause. Grandpa Harold glanced toward my parents standing in the doorway, then back to the officer. "No, I'd like to go home." The words were simple, but they landed with finality. My mother started to protest. "He's confused. He doesn't mean." But the officer raised a hand gently, cutting her off without rudeness. "Ma'am, he seems clear-headed. We'll assist him if that's his wish." They helped him to his feet, steadying him as he gripped his cane. Maya let go of my hand and moved forward instinctively, taking his arm on the other side. He gave her a small, grateful smile as we all made our way out. My parents watched in stunned silence, no more arguments coming. As the officers ensured he was safely in my car, one turned to me. "He can file a report if he wants. Just so you know." "Thank you," I said quietly. The drive back to his house was quiet at first. He sat in the front passenger seat, staring out the window, while Maya reached forward from the back to rest her hand on his shoulder. I kept glancing over. waiting for him to speak. "Thank you," he said, eventually, voice rough. "Didn't expect it to come to that. You don't have to explain." I replied softly. "We're just glad you're okay." We got him settled at home. Fresh coffee. His favorite chair by the window. He seemed more himself there, the tension easing from his shoulders. After a while, he looked at me directly. "I've already contacted my lawyer this morning. We should go now, while I've got the clarity." Amaya and I exchanged glances, but we didn't question it. Toot, the office wasn't far, a small firm he'd used for years. The attorney greeted us warmly, leading us to a conference room with wood paneling and stacks of files. He spread out documents on the table, adjusting his glasses as he addressed Grandpa Harold first. "We've discussed updating the will before," he began evenly. "The current version leaves the bulk to your daughter and her family, with provisions for Lauren as well. Changing beneficiaries now is straightforward since you're of sound mind. But I have to warn you, disinheriting close family can lead to contests after you're gone. They might claim undue influence or question capacity." Grandpa Harold listened intently, nodding. "I understand the risks. I've thought about this longer than today." The lawyer turned a few pages, pointing out sections. "What can redirect everything: savings, investments, remaining property interests, to Claire, and a trust for Maya's education and future. It's clean. Revocable only by you while you're able." I sat quietly, watching as he explained the safeguards. Medical affirmation of capacity if needed. Witnesses present. Maya stayed right beside her great-grandfather, her small hand wrapped around his the entire time. She didn't say a word, just watched his face with that serious expression kids get when they sense something important. He asked a couple clarifying questions. About timelines, about protecting Maya long-term. The attorney answered thoroughly, no rush, making sure everything was understood. When it came time, Grandpa Harold took the pen without hesitation, signing where indicated, initialing pages with steady strokes. The lawyer notarized. Witnesses from the office signed. And it was done. He slid copies across the table, the weight of the moment settling in the room. Grandpa Harold leaned back, exhaling slowly. Maya squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes fixed on him. Silent but present in a way that said more than words could. My phone started buzzing more than usual in the days that followed. The first real outburst came from Lauren. I was folding laundry when her name lit up the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Claire." Her voice cracked right away, thick with tears. "What have you done?" I stayed silent, waiting. "You manipulated him. He's old. He's confused. And you took advantage. How could you turn him against us like this, after everything the family has been through?" I leaned against the counter, keeping my breathing even. Maya was in the next room, coloring, oblivious for now. "He wasn't confused," I said calmly. "He knew exactly what he wanted." She didn't let me finish. "This is about money, isn't it? You've always been jealous. Mom and Dad gave you chances and you threw them away. Now you're stealing what's supposed to be for all of us. For Ethan's future. For the house. For everything Grandpa worked for." The accusations kept coming, layered with years of resentment. She painted me as the schemer, the one who whispered in a vulnerable old man's ear to secure a bigger share. Each claim twisted facts I'd lived with for decades. When she paused for breath, I spoke. "You mean the house he paid for while you all enjoyed the space? The same space you decided didn't have room for an 8-year-old one cold night?" She faltered. "That was different. It was crowded. Things got hectic. And sending her out into the dark alone was the solution." My tone stayed low, measured. "Letting Ethan mock her clothes while you stood by, refusing to even let her borrow a phone. It wasn't like that," she insisted, voice rising again. "You're blowing it out of proportion to justify this betrayal." I didn't raise my voice. "It's not betrayal to protect what's right. You've all benefited from his generosity for years. Taken it without question. But when it came to treating his great-granddaughter with basic decency, there wasn't room." She started crying harder, switching tactics. "Please, talk to him. Fix this. Ethan deserves." "No," I cut in gently but firmly. "He doesn't get to decide that anymore." The line went quiet except for her breathing. Then my mother's text came through almost simultaneously. A long message full of blame, calling me ungrateful. saying I'd broken her father's heart and destroyed the family. She ended with a threat to fight it legally, to prove Grandpa Harold wasn't in his right mind. I read it once, then set the phone down. Lauren was still on the line, waiting for a response that would soften things. Instead, I said the only thing left. My daughter has learned how to stay silent from this family. Then I hung up. The phone buzzed again almost immediately. More texts. Another call from a number I recognized as my father's. I let them pile up for a moment, reading the escalating anger, the shift from tears to outrage. They accused me of isolating him, of poisoning years of relationships for my own gain. I didn't reply to any of it. When the notifications became too much, I blocked Lauren's number first, then my mother's, then my father's. One by one, the connection severed with a few taps. No dramatic declaration, no final message, just silence on my end. Maya wandered in then, holding up a drawing for me to see. I smiled, took it from her, and hung it on the fridge without a word about the phone. She didn't need to know the details yet. The quiet that followed felt different. Cleaner. Like closing a door that had been letting in cold air for too long. No more explanations owed. No more defending choices they'd never understood. I deleted the voicemail notifications without listening, cleared the text threads, turned the phone face down. Whatever came next, legal threats or regret, I wasn't opening that door again. Looking back now, the change feels like a quiet revolution in our daily lives. Grandpa Harold moved in with us not long after everything settled. We transformed the house to make it truly comfortable for him. Wider doorways, a new ramp at the entrance, grab bars in the bathroom, his bedroom on the main floor, so stairs weren't an issue. He grumbled at first about being a burden. But the truth was, he brought life to the place. Mornings started with the smell of his strong coffee. Evenings often ended with him reading stories to Maya in that deep, steady voice she loved. Maya blossomed in ways I hadn't anticipated. At 9 now, she carried herself differently. Shoulders back, eyes brighter. She started inviting friends over without hesitation, turning the living room into a fort, building zone or the backyard into an adventure playground. Her laughter filled the house more often, genuine and unguarded, the kind that comes when a child no longer second guesses whether they belong. Grandpa Harold watched it all with quiet satisfaction, joining in when he could, teaching her card games at the kitchen table, sharing old photos that made her giggle at my younger self. He had good days and tougher ones with his mobility. But being surrounded by us seemed to ease the frustration. We kept routines simple, walks when the weather allowed, movie nights with popcorn, small traditions that built security without fanfare. As for my parents, word filtered through mutual acquaintances that they'd downsized to a smaller apartment after losing the monthly help with their mortgage. No more big gatherings like the ones they used to host. The kind where the house overflowed with people and noise. Life looked tighter for them, more contained. Lauren and Ethan faded into the background too, their updates sparse and secondhand. I never sought details, and none came directly. The real shift showed in Maya's choices. She became selective about who she spent time with, gravitating toward friends who showed up consistently, who celebrated her without conditions. One afternoon, I overheard her telling a playmate, "Real friends make you feel like there's always room for you." She said it casually. But it stopped me in my tracks. The way she'd internalized what truly mattered. Watching her navigate that at such a young age made the distance from certain parts of our extended family feel less like a loss and more like protection. Grandpa Harold noticed too. He'd pull her close sometimes and say, "You've got a good heart, kiddo. Guard it well." Our home became a sanctuary of uncomplicated affection. No scorekeeping, no favoritism, just presence. Maya thrived in it, her confidence growing roots that I hoped would hold strong through whatever came next. In the end, that's the truth this whole experience carved into me. Family isn't defined by blood alone. It's built in the everyday choices. The people who make space for you without hesitation. Who show up when it's inconvenient. Who love without keeping tally. Sometimes creating that safe circle means drawing firm lines. Even with those who share your history. It's painful. But it's necessary. Maya taught me that as much as I tried to teach her. Seeing her choose kindness. Surround herself with those who lift her up. It's proof that breaking away from what hurts can lead to something stronger. If you're facing something similar, know that protecting your peace and your child's is worth it. True family is where you're valued, not tolerated.